I feel like the term ripple effect means a domino effect, a chain reaction, a snowball effect, even an extension of an action. Over the last 7 years, I've been able to work with 45 different individuals at Wavetronics. Each presenter opens a window into their lives and offers deeper meaning and valuable lessons that can add a lasting ripple in our own lives. I really hope that everyone who comes to attend Ripple Effect will be open to the messages that Cami, Mark, and Jake have prepared as they share pieces of themselves with everyone in attendance.
I hope not to put anybody asleep, but it's a fun chance to kind of introduce myself and share some things about me and my life and some of my experiences, and so it'll be nice for people to get to know me a little bit better. I get to talk about some choices that we make and the way some of those choices I've made in my life impact me and continue to impact me, and so I would just say the power of choice and the positive influence it can have on our lives. Happy Thursday.
I hope that people will start looking for and finding beauty in unexpected places. Beautifully bent.
Even though our lives can be chaotic at times, it is possible for us to get to the right place. And if I can be where I am today, then I believe that anyone can get to where they need to be, to their right place, even better. How did I get here?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Ripple Effect. My name is Don Levitt, and it is my honor to serve as your host tonight. You have chosen to join us on a day that Winnie the Pooh would have described as blowsy and blustery. So we are thrilled to share this special event with you, and we sincerely hope you enjoy your time with us this evening. We do want to remind you that immediately after our program, there will be 3 special experiences tailored to each presentation, where you'll have the opportunity to enjoy some of our presenters' favorite foods, participate in some meaningful activities, and enjoy the opportunity to interact one-on-one with each of tonight's speakers. To get us started, will you please join me in welcoming to the stage tonight's presenters, Cami Smith, Jake Wasden, and Mark Brouwer. This is it, no getting out of it now. This is my favorite event produced by Wavetronics. Ripple Effect is built on the idea that the smallest story, the smallest act, even the smallest gesture can have incalculable effects on the people around us. Every moment of our lives, every decision we make ripples out and affects countless others, either for good or for bad. At the same time, your life is constantly being affected by the ripples emanating from others. Small things quickly add up. Remember, there would be no minute without its seconds, no day without, or hour without its minutes, and no day without its hours. Consider for a moment all of the small, almost insignificant events that have rippled into history. A novice crewman is replaced at the last moment and accidentally leaves the Titanic with the key to the binocular cabinet in his pocket. A driver's wrong turn leads to the assassination that erupts into World War I. A government official misreads the public announcement he is making on television and accidentally sparks the demolition of the Berlin Wall. That is the power of ripple effects. Mother Teresa has been quoted as saying, "I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the water to create many ripples." Each of the stories you're going to hear tonight is a stone, and it is our hope that as you listen to them, the experiences of our presenters and the lessons they've learned will ripple out and impact you, and in turn, the people that you choose to share this experience with. The theme for our presentations tonight is perspective, and more specifically, how we choose to view the world around us. Each of our presenters has worked really hard to prepare for tonight, and I am very grateful to them for their willingness to be open and vulnerable and to share some deeply personal things with us. We invite you to listen to them closely, to enjoy their stories, and as you think about the messages they share, we hope that their stories will inspire you in ways that will help make you and your life a little better. Our first presenter tonight knows from experience how windy and unpredictable life's path can be. Mark Brouwer joined Wavetronics in 2021, and in just 2 weeks, will celebrate his 5th anniversary with the company. Congratulations. In addition to serving as a product manager in engineering, Mark also serves on the engineering management team and as a bridge between our engineering teams here and our teams in Kochi, India. Mark met his wife Jennifer while they were both attending the former Ricks College in Idaho, and this year they will celebrate 36 years of marriage. They are the parents of 1 daughter and a son-in-law with their first grandbaby on the way. That really is the best. Together, they enjoy spending time outdoors, eating good food, or just spending a quiet night at home with a good movie. Mark believes strongly in the power of positivity. What if the struggles you're facing right now are not roadblocks, but redirections? The challenges of life are very real, but a positive attitude and a strong support system can make all the difference. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Mark Brouwer.
How did I get here? And when I say here, I mean here, Springville, Utah, standing in front of you, some of the smartest people I know, giving a speech. Seeing familiar faces in the crowd is comforting, but my heart is racing, my mouth is dry, and if there was any way to take a snapshot of this moment and give this to a teenage me, my younger me would not believe that this would be real, not even for a second. Life is funny. You never know where you're going to end up. But I've learned that you will always end up in the right place, precisely where you should be. Especially when you choose positively to deal with the things that are placed in your path. Tonight, I hope to show that being positive and relying on my amazing support system, my family, has brought me to where I am today. I have an awesome family. And I was known as the happy kid who always smiled and was always positive. To understand my journey, let me take you back in time and to the other side of the world. Brisbane, Australia, late 1960s, where I ran around bare feet on soft, warm grass, wearing shorts and t-shirts. My parents moved there when from the Netherlands and lived in Australia for about 10 years. And that's where my sister and I joined the family. When I was still pretty young, We moved back to the Netherlands, and that's where I did most of my growing up. Riding bikes under overcast skies, or picking leaves on crisp fall days. It was a completely different environment than sunny Australia. Growing up in Europe was an adventure. My dad would take off work during the summers, and we would spend time together as a family somewhere. We would hook a trailer to the back of our car, or pack tents, and drive to one of the many countries surrounding us. We would find a campsite, we would set up, and go explore. That is how we visited most of Europe, waking up in unfamiliar places, surrounded by different cultures and amazing history. I remember tasting foods that I had never tried before, and hearing languages that I couldn't understand. Summers were amazing. They were a great part of my growing up. Summers were also great because I didn't have to think about school. School was not a happy place for me. And when I grew older, it became harder and harder for me to keep up with my schoolwork. My family was super supportive. I tried my very best, but I just could not keep up. And so I started to think that there was something wrong with me, that I was dumb. Because of this, my confidence took a hit, and I would be quiet in class. I would never raise my hand when the teacher asked a question, even if I knew, or if I thought I knew the answer, because I didn't want to look dumb in front of my classmates, and in case I didn't know the answer. Teachers tried to help. They put me in different classes. They kept me after school for extra work. But this actually had an unintended negative consequence. I was seen as different. And when you're different in school, kids treat you that way. And that's usually not kind. And so I remember waiting as long as I could at the end of the day, trying to be the last one to leave, hoping that the other kids would be gone, and so I wouldn't be punched or laughed at as I made my way home. Hearing whispers and laughter as I did my schoolwork eroded my confidence even more. And so I decided I didn't need anybody else to be happy, and so I spend most of my evenings and weekends at home with my family or alone in my room. What I didn't know then was that I was not dumb. I just had learning disabilities like dyslexia. And those were not diagnosed as easy as they are today. High school didn't get any better. I was failing classes. I would try to keep up, but kept falling behind. And so I started acting out. I would get in trouble with my teachers, and I would skip classes, especially the ones that were the hardest, just so I didn't have to deal with them. This put me on this changed the direction of my path. I was not the happy, positive person that I used to be. And so my awesome parents stepped in, and they found an alternative school. This was a school that was designed for kids that grew up on farms, that may someday take over the family business. I was not a farm kid, and I was not planning on becoming one. But the hands-on learning was exactly what my brain needed. I loved being outside, mud on my boots or wooden shoes, cold air in my lungs, and the predictable rhythm of actual work, and actually understanding what was being taught. Did you know that cows grow extra fur in the winter? And if they're kept indoors during the winter months, they can overheat, causing them to produce less milk with lower fat and protein content. It's one of the things I learned in my school, but it was not, I didn't just learn it, I put it into practice. And so I spend time in the fall at a farm shaving cows. Yes, that is a real thing, shaving cows. The work was great. The smell, on the other hand, was unforgettable. It was heavy, sharp, and impossible to ignore. I had to have my clothes washed several times before I could wear them in public again. So if you weren't aware, cows don't smell great. Besides the smell, I started to pass my classes. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel dumb. I felt like I would be able to become someone. And then I graduated. I actually graduated. Hear my name called, knowing that I was able to be done. This was a milestone for me in my life. I never had to go to school again if I didn't want to. And I was technically qualified to be a farmer. So then I looked ahead at my path, and I saw a junction that I knew I had to take. For as long as I can remember, I had always planned on spending 2 years as a missionary for my church. And so I kept that goal. I was asked to work with people in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I was going to be speaking English. And if it wasn't clear, English is not my first language. I was familiar with English because of Australia and classes in school, but with my learning challenges, I was a little nervous. But my positive attitude was returning, and this helped me to take a leap of faith, hoping that things would go well. It turns out this was exactly what I needed to turn things around for me completely. Florida was another new environment again. Heat, humidity, unfamiliar streets, and faces that did not know my past. I was able to step out of the shadows. The English language came easier than expected. It felt like the issues I had with my learning disability had gone away. I talked more, I laughed more, I felt lighter than I had in years. I felt myself becoming that happy little kid again. After 2 years in Florida, I felt confident enough to go to college. Yes, I decided to go back to school. And I did pretty well. And then I met my wife, Jennifer, my amazing partner. And once we got engaged, I did even better in my classes. I was able to graduate from Ricks College, also known as BYU, Idaho, and Iowa State University. With a degree, you would think it would be something like engineering, since I work at Wavetronics, but no, interior design. I still didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. My awesome wife, Jennifer, encouraged me to take on any challenge that came my way. And this opened doors that I could never have imagined. I worked as a CAD technician, computer-aided design technician at an architectural company. This was a hands-on job, and I thrived. I loved seeing the outcomes of my work, holding printed construction drawings in my hand, or later, driving past buildings that had once only been images on my screen. I felt like I was providing value, and that increased my confidence. That stood out at work, and so I was asked to do more different things, including taking care of computers and the server at our office. I picked up those skills pretty quickly, and it's made a change in my career. I went from CAD technician to desktop support tech. Because of my positive attitude, I stood out there as well and was asked to do even more different things, putting more zigs and zags in my path. I went from CAD technician to desktop support tech. I was able to do project management, then product management, which opened a door for me to take on a director's position and eventually vice president. At any time in my life, I could have said, well, this is as good as it's going to get for me. Still, when life threw unexpected things in my path, positively choosing to accept those challenges helped me to move forward instead of stepping back. And that is how I got here. Grateful for all the twists and turns on my path that brought me to this moment. I learned that my path wasn't, the direction of my path was not set, and it still isn't. I learned that I have the power to make positive changes to the direction of my path. And I learned that being positive makes all the difference. So, don't get stuck when things get hard. Rely on your support system, the people that will always be there for you. And be positive that that things will work out and you will end up in the right place. Thank you.
Fantastic job. Thank you, Mark. Our next presenter is known at Wavetronics as the Happy Day Guy. No matter what day of the week it is, Jake Wasden will greet you with a wave and a smile and an enthusiastic reminder to have a happy day. Jake joined Wavetronics in November 2012 and since then has had roles in marketing, in operations, and now as the lead of the talent development team. He holds a bachelor's degree in Japanese and an MBA, both from Brigham Young University. While at BYU, Jake met and married his wife, Michelle, a decision he still considers one of the best of his life, so congrats, Michelle. Together, they have 3 daughters and 3 grandsons who proudly call him Papa Jake. Their family enjoys spending time outdoors, sports of all kinds, and maybe most especially sharing adventures together. When was the last time you consciously chose to be happy? We make so many decisions every day: what to eat, what to wear, where to put our focus. Is it possible that being happy is a choice too? Tonight, Jake shares the personal journey that helped him discover that happiness isn't something we wait for, it is something we choose. Please welcome to the stage Mr. Jake Wasden.
Happy Thursday. On a crisp fall morning when I was in 7th grade, I was riding my bike to school when I had a surprising thought. I felt happy, and maybe that is surprising for a 7th grader. And it wasn't just in that moment. I'd been feeling that way for a while. And what was surprising about this is that things at school weren't necessarily going perfectly. I had some awkward moments. I had some challenging situations I was dealing with. But underneath it all, I still felt a sense of happiness. As I pedaled along, I had a second realization that I actually had some control over it, that I could choose my outlook, I could choose to be happy. So that morning, somewhere between my house and the school bike rack, I made the decision to be happy. Happy Thursday, it's a common greeting that I use, and it's my personal reminder to choose happiness regardless of my circumstances, and that's why I say Happy Thursday. Interestingly, science backs this up. According to studies, while part of our happiness is determined by our genetics or our circumstances, a portion of our happiness is actually determined by our choices, our habits, our mindsets, the way we choose to respond to life. And so that actually gives us a lot of control or influence over our happiness. Since that time, I've actually found several principles that help me to actively invite happiness into my life. And tonight, I'd like to share some personal experiences that highlight 2 of those principles. First, relationships. There's an 87-year Harvard study that found that the single strongest predictor of long-term happiness and longevity, it's not money, it's not achievement, it's not fame, it's quality relationships, what the researchers call social fitness. And I've found this to be true in my own life. A while ago, we were living in New Jersey, and I worked for a company that required heavy travel. I was on the road, usually Monday to Friday, for over 30 weeks in a year. And it started to take a toll on my relationships and on my happiness. I once heard of a formula to measure the strength of a relationship, and it is the quantity of time spent together times the quality of that time spent together equals the strength of the relationship. And since, as a family, the quantity of time that we had together was greatly reduced, we needed to find a way to improve the quality of time that we did have together. So we started what we called GBPH phone calls. Kind of a mouthful. So each night when I was on the road, I would call home, and we would take turns sharing something good, something bad, something we were proud of, and a hand of God moment from our day. Sabrina, my oldest daughter, if anybody knows her, she's quite the talker. She's a lot of fun. So we soon learned to have her go last on our phone calls. But these GBPH phone calls help take our level of communication and connection from kind of a surface level to deeper levels of connection. Examples of G or good experiences shared included things like successes at school, successes at sport, or positive interactions with friends. B, or bad, were usually things like disappointments, maybe an illness or challenging situations. On one particular phone call, one of my daughters shared that she was dealing with a bully at school. But because of our routine, she felt comfortable opening up and sharing about it, and it gave us an opportunity to talk through it and to come up with different ideas and ways to approach it, and then later to celebrate with her as she had handled it in a healthy and successful way. Because of our intentional time together, I was able to learn about this when I might not have otherwise. P, or proud of, might have been my favorite because it gave me a chance to hear what my daughters and my wife valued. On a different phone call, I learned that one of my daughter's art projects had been selected to be displayed at an art exhibit being sponsored by a local township. It was fun to hear the excitement in her voice as she described her art project and the excitement she had for us to come and see it at the exhibit. H, hand of God moments, gave us a chance to hear the small day-to-day blessings that our girls were experiencing, or to share in the larger spiritual experiences with them as they had those. Since recently, I reached out to my kids and I asked them what do they remember about these GBPH phone calls. And the consensus was pretty simple. They said it felt easier for them to talk to me and they felt closer because of the calls. I too felt closer to my kids and my wife, and I was happier because of it. Since that time, I don't travel nearly as much as I used to, but my kids are growing up and they're moving out and starting their own families. And so when we get on family calls, it's still common for somebody to ask, what is your GBPH? And I love what it's done to our family culture and how it continues to build stronger and closer relationships. Relationships don't matter just at home, but also at work. Some of my most meaningful relationships at work haven't happened in the office or in the meeting, but on the basketball court, the ultimate frisbee field, or playing a board game over lunch. These shared experiences with my coworkers help me see them not just as colleagues completing tasks, but as friends, and it makes work a more rewarding experience because of that. When my social fitness is strong, I'm happier, more engaged, more productive, and life simply feels richer. The second principle I'd like to share with you tonight is what I call just say yes. Happiness doesn't come just from connection, but also from growth, from stretching ourselves, from accomplishing something that was challenging. Growth can come from attempting something new, from getting better and pushing ourselves to get better at something that we already do, and it's usually accompanied by accomplishing something meaningful. And I've learned that growth rarely happens on the easy path. It requires me to get uncomfortable, and it requires me to say yes when part of me wants to say no. Growing up, my mom was known in our neighborhood as a speech lady. She had a reputation for writing clever, witty campaign speeches that helped kids get elected to different student elections. And every year during election season, several kids would reach out to my mom and help and ask for her help with their speeches. My younger brothers also ran and won for student elections. And I would watch with a little bit of envy or maybe jealousness as they ran and won year after year. But I was too timid. It was easier to play it safe. Finally, my senior year, I decided to run for student election. I was nervous. I wasn't confident I could win. I didn't want to look foolish in front of 1,500 of my classmates, and running meant giving a speech in front of the whole school. So it would have been easy to keep playing it safe and to say no, but I decided to lean in and say yes anyways. As the election progressed, I had fun working hard and partnering with my mom. My mom and I partnered together to come up with clever and witty ways to promote myself in my speech. My mom, Marcy, actually reminds me a lot of my mom. My mom was a real stickler for practice. So if you've given a Ripple talk and you know Marcy, you know my mom. But my mom was a stickler for practice, especially being able to look up and not read the paper. So I had to practice in front of my mom. I practiced in front of the mirror. I practiced so much I got tired of hearing my own voice. Finally, the time for the speech came, and they called my name. My palms were sweaty. My stomach was churning, a little bit like tonight. And so as I approached the stadium, I was grateful it was solid to the floor. I grabbed it with both hands to steady myself. The other candidates teased me because as I was giving my speech, my legs were shaking like Jell-O behind the podium. But all the hard work and the practice paid off, as the people in the audience couldn't see my legs, and when I asked my friends, they said that I looked calm and I gave a good speech. What mattered more than winning or losing was the fact that I had faced something that scared me, and I had done it anyway. And the pride I felt in that moment was deeper than the pride of winning. As I reflected in that moment, I felt a real sense of accomplishment, and even today when I reflect on it, I still have a sense of pride at having done something challenging. So fast forward, about 15 years later, we're living in New Jersey, and I need to look for a new job. There were lots of job postings that I felt comfortable and that I was highly qualified for, but one particular job posting caught my attention, got me excited. It was for a role as an industrial engineering consultant. It excited me, but it also intimidated me. I didn't have the right degree. I didn't have the relevant experience in a distribution center that they were looking for. So it would have been easy to say no and skip it. But I decided to say yes, and I got to work customizing my resume. I highlighted transferable skills I thought they might like to show attributes where I thought it might make me an interesting candidate to them. And to my surprise, I made it through the resume screening process. So then, to prepare for the interview, I made sure I could talk intelligently about my resume and was very comfortable with that. I learned the types of questions they were going to ask me, and I spent a lot of time doing practice interviews with friends, with family, even recording myself doing these mock interviews. I went in for the interviews, went through several rounds, and they actually went really well. So they advanced me to the next step in the process, which was to take the Stanford Scientific Aptitude Test, which I'd never heard of, in which you heard I had a Japanese degree, so that was kind of fun for a humanities kid. But I learned what I could about the test. I got online, I found practice tests, and I spent hours and hours studying for and preparing for that test. As I went in to take that test, I told myself the same thing I tell my kids before they went in for big tests, which is go in, relax, have fun. It's just an opportunity to learn something about yourself. I must have done okay because they hired me. If I hadn't said yes to that job application, not only would I have missed out on the job, but the growth that came with it. That job stretched me, it challenged me, and I took a lot of satisfaction in delivering quality results for our clients. As I reflect back on that job, it still brings me a lot of joy and satisfaction today. We rarely look back and cherish the easy times in life. It's the times that stretched us, the ones that demanded courage, the ones that changed us are the ones that we remember. The two principles I've highlighted tonight, meaningful relationships and just say yes, continue to work together in my life to bring about happiness. As I prepared for tonight, I've reflected on different experiences that have brought me real joy. One memory that stood out from when I first started at Wavetronics was when I started supporting our Asia Pacific teams. And that's when I started working with a gentleman by the name of Minder Day, who ran our Beijing sales office. Intimidated me a little bit. And if you know Minder, you might know why. Minder had a big personality. He had strong opinions. He knew what he wanted. He knew what his customers needed. And not long after starting working with him, he had a big ask. He asked for a Pulse magazine in Chinese. At that time, we published a quarterly magazine targeting the traffic industry in English. And so creating a version of that magazine in Chinese was something new and definitely something challenging for me. So as we worked together, I really had to stretch. I was learning a new market. I was learning a new culture. I was learning about different customers. But more importantly, I had to build a relationship with Minder. So as we talked, I got to know Minder, and he's a really delightful human. I learned about his wife and his two kids. He was actually a professor at Auburn and had Charles Barkley in his class. He ran restaurants in Philadelphia, and then he was leading our sales teams in China and Taiwan. And I got to learn also about the challenges he was facing in our markets. The more I got to know Minder, the more I appreciated him and what he was trying to accomplish, and the stronger and deeper our relationship got. Together, we gathered relevant content for the magazine. We partnered with our marketing team, at that time Chris Morgan and Dan Dukwitz, as well as many others, to design, produce, and distribute the magazine. It required coordination, it required creativity and persistence. When the first issue was complete, I felt something deeper than professional satisfaction. I had built meaningful relationships, I had been stretched and grown, and we had delivered something new and something valuable together. That combination of connection and growth brought real happiness. Even today, when I think back on that time with Minder and working together, it brings a lot of joy. So experiences like that remind me of something that Martin Seligman, the father of positive psychology, once said. He said that well-being cannot exist just in our own head. Well-being is a combination of it's a combination of feeling good as well as actually having meaning, good relationships, and accomplishment. And when I read that, that resonated with me because that's exactly what I've experienced. These two principles I've shared with you tonight, social fitness and growth, along with others, help me to continue to choose happiness in my life. Some days are easier than others. I still have my hard days like everyone else. But I know this. While I can't control everything, I can control how I invest in my relationships and whether or not I lean into growth opportunities. Years ago, on a bike ride to school, I made the decision to choose happiness. Today, I continue to choose happiness by investing in my relationships and saying yes to the kind of opportunities that stretch and challenge me. So my invitation to you tonight is simple. Invest in your relationships, say yes to growth, and have a happy Thursday.
Great job. Thank you, Jake. All right, we've had your posteriors planted on these hard seats for quite a while now, so please stand up, take a moment, get the blood circulating again before we move on. Doesn't that feel good? All right, our final presenter tonight came to Wavetronics in 2023 with over 20 years of experience in floral design. As our in-house florist, Cami Smith brings her love of flowers and creativity to everything she does, from helping people in Stockwells to the variety of craft projects she gets to do. But she says what she loves most about Wavetronics are the people she works with and the relationships that she's been able to build. Cami has been married to her husband, Rob, for almost 25 years and is the proud mom to their 2 daughters and 3 dogs. She calls her family her greatest achievement. In her personal time, she enjoys creating, whether that's through quilting or cooking or baking, or sharing her love of floral design with brides-to-be. She loves to travel and considers Lake Powell in southern Utah to be her happiest place on earth. Through her creative endeavors, Cami has learned to see beauty in different ways. Our lives are bombarded with so many expectations for perfection, but life has taught Cami that perfection is seriously overrated. Sometimes seeing beauty just requires a little change in perspective. A warm welcome, please, for Ms. Cami Smith.
I'd like to begin with a simple thought. What if the things we consider imperfections are actually where the deepest beauty is found? My love of flowers has grown tremendously through years of design experience. I've been a florist for 23 years, and 10 of those years were spent teaching floral design to students at American Fork High School. Now at Wavetronics, I love that part of my role allows me to cut flowers from the amazing gardens across our beautiful campus. If you've ever walked down the far sidewalk to the west of the Foundry Building, you may have seen what I call Wildflower Hill. Last summer, it was full of cosmos, coreopsis, poppies, and so many other blooms, no two exactly alike. Some had curved petals, some had spots, some may have leaned and grew sideways. One might have opened unevenly or even lost a petal, and yet none of us look at a flower and think, well, that one failed. Alice Walker wrote, "In nature, nothing is perfect and everything is perfect. Trees can be contorted, bent in weird ways, and they're still beautiful." In my early years as a floral designer, I often thought that imperfect flowers or flowers with bent stems were unusable. Now, they're often my favorite. Some bent stems self-correct after being cut and rehydrated. Some can be wired and taped, or even splinted. But the technique I've learned to love most is called strategic placement. This involves using a flower's natural curve to create movement, flow, and yes, even a little asymmetry. Curved stems can fill awkward spaces and guide the eye. Their bends don't signal failure, they record experience. A stem curves because of the life it's lived, the sun it reached toward, the wind it endured, the obstacles it grew around. Its curve tells its story, and humans are the same. Our crookedness, or the parts of ourselves we label imperfect, often come from what we've grown through: hardships, pressures, unexpected turns, survival. A straight stem tells you almost nothing, but a curved one tells you everything. After years of working with flowers, I've realized that nature rarely produces symmetry, and that irregularity is what creates life, movement, and emotion. I don't try to erase a flower's curve. Instead, I strategically place it where its arc becomes essential. Likewise, the parts of ourselves we once wished were straighter often become the parts that give us depth, empathy, originality, and connection. A flower's crooked stem doesn't make it less beautiful. It makes its beauty more honest. Life reminded me of this in a deeply personal way in 2019. What started as a seemingly straightforward ER visit for my husband turned into something much bigger. As the doctor diagnosed him with appendicitis, he also mentioned that he had noticed a small mass on his kidney that would need to be checked out after his recovery. A biopsy and test confirmed it was cancer. Luckily, it was found early, surgically removed, and required no further treatment. Life has a way of interrupting us, humbling us, and reminding us of what truly matters. Small moments, a quiet morning alone, a shared laugh with friends, a walk hand in hand with my husband, suddenly felt sacred. Not long after his surgery and subsequent recovery, I had a mole checked that I'd been questioning for several years. It was cancerous as well. Like my husband, it only needed to be removed. Both of us were left with scars, physical and emotional. Those scars remind me that I've survived. They remind me to treat people with extra kindness, because I don't know what wounds or scars they might be carrying. That year could have left me fearful, but instead it made me grateful. It taught me to savor the small and simple moments that make life meaningful. Another place I've learned about imperfection is through quilting, one of my many hobbies. Quilts fascinate me because they combine precision and imperfection stitched side by side. In 2017, armed with some remaining knowledge from a high school sewing class, an online tutorial, and a friend's patient guidance, I decided to make a quilt. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was up for the challenge. I went to the fabric store and I selected my fabrics. They were beautiful, and I was excited. I got home and I began to cut those beautiful fabrics into the pieces needed to make the design. I sewed, trimmed, sewed some more, trimmed some more, and repeated the process over and over until I had finally completed the quilt top. And then I stalled. I had chosen a floral print for the backing of the quilt. Pattern matching intimidated me, and I wanted it to be perfect. If you're not familiar, pattern matching involves lining up the print on one piece of fabric and stitching it so it flows seamlessly into the next, like puzzle pieces. It's tricky, and if you're even a little off, the eye catches the flaw immediately. Hi, my name is Cami, and I am a recovering perfectionist. I was afraid I wouldn't get it perfect, and because of that fear, my first quilt top sat on a shelf in my craft room, just waiting, collecting dust, and silently reminding me of what I had not finished. Then came 2020. Life shifted dramatically. I was navigating teaching a usually very hands-on class in a now virtual setting, helping my 2 teen daughters with their remote schoolwork, and sharing space with a husband now working from home. This introvert was overstimulated on the daily. I would often retreat to my craft room to find some peace and quiet, and there on the shelf sat the quilt. One day I'd had it. I said enough. I decided to just go for it. I pattern matched the backing as best I could, and then I quilted it, wrestling and wrangling the layers of fabric and batting through my small sewing machine. The stitches weren't even. It took forever. And it was far from perfect. But it was finished. And you know what? No one has ever complained about the crooked stitches or the mismatched seams. Instead, they just snuggle under it. A quilt made with love, patience, frustration, persistence, and maybe a few swear words. I'm pretty sure hot chocolate was spilled on it within its first week of use. But that quilt taught me something important. Imperfectly finished is far better than perfectly unfinished. Quilts show us a different sort of beauty, softer, kinder, and more human. Every uneven seam reflects the maker's hand, heart, and story. Imperfections become evidence of creativity, resilience, and courage. They show that the maker did not wait to be perfect to begin. We don't love flowers because they're flawless. We love them because they're alive. We don't treasure quilts because they're perfect. We treasure them because they're personal and often made by someone we love. We don't scold a tulip for being too short or a sunflower for bending toward the light. Instead, we see them as beautiful exactly as they are, and we should see ourselves with the same generosity. We chase so much perfection, perfect grades, perfect homes, perfect families, perfect jobs, perfect outcomes, perfect lives. But what if perfection was never the point? What if our scars, our crooked seams, and our uneven petals are not what make our lives real, but beautiful? Imperfection teaches humility. We don't have to have it all together. It teaches connection. Our honesty gives others permission to be real too. And it teaches gratitude. We begin to notice beauty we may have once overlooked. Maybe we should appreciate our scars, the evidence that we've survived. Maybe we should be like quilts, stitching scraps of joy and hardship into something meaningful. And maybe we should live like wildflowers, leaning toward the light, blooming where we're planted, and embracing uniqueness. Author Mandy Hale wrote, "Life isn't meant to be lived perfectly, but merely to be lived. Boldly, wildly, beautifully, uncertainly, imperfectly, magically lived." And she's right. Imperfection isn't something to hide, it's something to honor. Because our curves tell our stories, our uneven seams reveal our humanity, and our scars show where we've grown and healed. And the things we once saw as flaws often become the most beautiful parts of who we are. Flowers, quilts, and people share the same truth. We are not beautiful in spite of our imperfections. We are beautiful because of them. May we see ourselves and one another with that kind of generous vision. May we celebrate the curves, the scars, the mismatched seams. And tonight, as you go out into your own fields and begin stitching your own quilts of experience, I hope you'll remember, imperfection isn't something to hide, it's something to celebrate. And may we live lives that are not perfect, but richly, honestly, and beautifully imperfect. Thank you.
Such a beautiful message. Thank you, Cami. And that is our program. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your evening with us. As you can see, a lot of work has been put into this event, and we invite you to join us as we say thank you to the powerhouse behind Ripple Effect, Ms. Marcy Mahana. Thanks also to our audio and video team for looking after our technology needs tonight. And thank you to the numerous teams critical to the success of Ripple Effect. The Hobble Creek Living team, our facilities team, the Jupiter Culinary team, the Experience Design team, and Bonimus. And an enthusiastic thank you to our presenters. Would you please join me? Ripple Effect is nothing without great presenters, and we would like to present Cami, Jake, and Mark with a token of our appreciation. Cami had to do her own flowers. Thanks again to each one of you for sharing your stories with us. And thanks again to you. We invite you to stay and enjoy the 3 experiences that have been prepared for you. You will find Jake's experience upstairs on the 2nd floor and Mark and Cami's here on the main floor. We do ask you to give us just a few minutes to get everything set up, but we promise that your patience will be richly rewarded. And we invite you to join us here for our next Ripple Effect, right here in October 2026. Until then, start a ripple and do something disruptively good for someone. And please, have a great evening.